It is thought that there are currently $420 trillion worth of currency in circulation around the world right now. Currency ultimately has whatever value people are willing to ascribe to it. It is an example of the so-called Tinkerbell effect. Like the fairy Tinkerbell, money is only real if everyone believes in it. For now anyway, people agree that money has value, and they have for some time. Currency has almost always served as the lifeblood of civilization, regardless of whether that currency is made of paper, coins, or seashells. Join us today at Intrigued Mind as we take a look at currency, the lifeblood of civilization. As a wise man once said, the love of money is the root of all evil, but money itself is quite useful for civilization. It allows people to trade goods and services indirectly. It communicates the prices of goods and services to people. It also allows people to store wealth. Imagine living in a society where bartering was the norm instead of currency. If you worked as, say, a painter, how would you store wealth? You could not amass a quantity of your own labor. Money serves as a socially accepted standard that people can use to price things and pay for things. At least, that's how it's used in commerce, and that's how it's used today. But it's possible that the concept of money predates its use for commerce. Anthropologists have found instances of primitive societies using money for things other than buying and selling stuff. For instance, money could be used to arrange marriages or to negotiate treaties. This notion of money as a sort of token that's not used to get goods is difficult for the modern consumer mind to comprehend. Money in some form has been in circulation for at least the past 5,000 years. Before that, it was up to good old-fashioned bartering to help people get what they wanted. Bartering is just direct trade between two parties. A farmer could give someone potatoes in exchange for a pair of shoes. This certainly has a wholesome sort of feel to it, but it's also inconvenient and limiting. How many potatoes is a pair of shoes really worth? And what if the farmer doesn't need a new pair of shoes? What if he thinks your shoes are ugly? Having a common medium that everyone will accept really just makes things a lot easier. Over time, a sort of currency developed around items that were almost universally desirable and could be traded easily. The items varied by region and culture, but things like animal skins, salt, and weapons were frequently used. Shells, such as mother of pearl, were widely circulated among the Native Americans. Cowrie shells were popular in Africa and Australia. Meteorites, iron, obsidian, amber, and beads have also served as currency at different points in history. Even live animals, like cows, have had their time being currency. Although one obvious problem with that is that everyone would just want to cook and eat their cash. Some of these items had utility. Animal skins have all kinds of uses, including clothes. Salt used to be the best way to store meat before refrigeration was invented, so it was way more valuable than it currently is. The phrase "worth your salt" comes from this. There's some evidence to suggest that Roman soldiers were at one point paid partially in salt. The word salary may come from the Latin word salarius, which meant pertaining to salt. But although the Romans loved their salt, it was destined to be replaced by superior mediums such as coins. In 2021, archaeologists in China announced that they had discovered what they believed was the world's oldest known coin minting site. A mint is a facility where currency is created. Sometime around 640 BC, this place started minting coins. This was most likely the first ever standardized metal coinage. Around this time, the 6th century BC Greek poet Xenophanes was ascribing the invention of metal coinage to the Lydians. An idea as good as using coins for money was bound to come up in two places that didn't have contact with each other. In 600 BCE, the Lydian king Alyattes minted what is thought to be the first official currency, the Lydian stater. These coins were made from electrum, which is a mixture of silver and gold that actually occurs naturally. The Romans called electrum white gold, or just gold as opposed to refined gold, which is what we would think of as gold today. The Lydian stater had pictures on it instead of numbers that signified denominations, and unlike most currency, which has the head of some leader on it, the stater had pictures of animals. That's one way to avoid the issue of future citizens taking issue with the person whose face is on their money. A bushel of wheat might cost you 2 owl coins and a snake coin. These coins helped Lydia create a robust trading system and become one of the richest empires of the time. Electrum was not as commonly used as gold or silver, but why were gold and silver used at all? Why not use diamonds or other gems? There's plenty of valuable stuff you can pull out of the earth. Gold and silver have several advantages over something like diamonds. Unlike diamonds, they are both very easily divisible. You can melt them down and make them into just about any shape you want. More importantly, you can cut them up without ruining any of their properties. If you cut a gold bar in half, you're left with 2 smaller gold bars. The gold itself stays the same. If you cut a gem, you could shatter it or ruin its aesthetic value. Gold is also relatively abundant, but not so abundant that someone could find a huge amount of it and cause massive inflation. There's a lot less gold than there is salt, for instance. It's scarce, but not so scarce that you might suddenly run out and be left with massive deflation. But as well suited to being money as gold and silver are, eventually, paper rolled onto the scene. Around 700 AD, the Chinese were again the first movers, changing from coins to paper money. Since China invented paper, it's only natural that they would be early adopters of paper money. When Marco Polo made his famous trip to Asia via the Silk Road, the Chinese were already using paper money and understood the money supply well. Chinese paper money at the time had a stern warning written on it. Those who were counterfeiting will be decapitated. Clearly, they took their paper money very seriously if they were dishing out capital punishment for anyone who dared to try and print their own. They also didn't have the sort of advanced anti-counterfeit technology that modern governments have, so I guess the only way to stop criminals was the old-fashioned way. Certain parts of Europe were using metal coins as their only form of currency all the way up until the 16th century. They got away with this partially because they went out and colonized vast territories in the New World, which were full of precious metals. This let them keep minting greater and greater quantities of gold and silver coins. Eventually, however, European banks began to use paper banknotes. It was a lot easier to carry around a piece of paper that says, "I own 1,000 gold coins in a bank somewhere," than it was to actually carry around 1,000 gold coins. These paper notes could be returned to the bank at any time in exchange for the precious metal. This meant that people would accept them in exchange for goods and services. It was similar to modern paper currency in that way. However, the major difference was that it was private rather than public. These notes were issued by banks to their customers. They weren't printed by the government like they are now. If the bank failed, the money would be worth nothing. The first paper currency that was issued by European governments was actually not in Europe at all. It was in their colonial governments in North America. Shipments between Europe and the colonies across the Atlantic took a very long time, so the colonies would frequently just run out of cash. Rather than go back in time to the barter system, the colonial governments just issued what were essentially IOUs that were traded as currency. The first instance of this was in Canada, which was a French colony at the time. In 1685, Canada was out of metal coins to pay their soldiers with. As anyone who has read about Rome can tell you, not paying your military is a terrible idea. So, rather than risk waiting until more coins could come in from Europe, the governor just signed a bunch of playing cards, handed them out to the soldiers, and said that they could be used as currency. This odd story about Canadian soldiers being paid with cards illustrates an important point. Money is whatever we want it to be. Many people are having this realization now, thanks to the popularization of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has so far not enjoyed the widespread adoption that its diehard fans predicted, but it has made a lot of people think about just what exactly currency even is. Currency has stayed more or less the same for the past couple hundred years. But what might the future of currency look like? For more videos on the most amazing forgotten parts of our history, be sure to subscribe to the Intrigued Mind channel, like the video, and leave your suggestions in the comments below.